They can't get away with this!
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the update that is Season 3. I spent some time playing in Quick Match, got some experience with the changes that they made, and I will say that the changes don't feel significant enough. We waited pretty much a year for them to change the game, and this comes after them apologizing for breaking the game in Season 2. This also comes after them replacing the whole development team. Nakatsu said the reason why it happened as well is because he didn't oversee the balance patch, and he will start overseeing the balance patch going forward, so we can expect sunshine and rainbows. Now, Season 3 came along, and it's not really that good for a few reasons. One, let's just talk about the rollout of Season 3. The marketing for this game was pretty much non-existent. The marketing that they did do was just the trailer. And in the trailer, they already backstepped multiple things in the trailer. No back to basics, even though that was the biggest, boldest text ever. And then they put refined gameplay. But when you look at the patch notes, refined gameplay just meant more buffs, meant more stances, and meant more, aggressiveness. But when you also look at the patch notes, one thing I didn't like about it as well is how vague it all was. The developers, it seems like they kind of know like the players will tear the patch notes to shreds if it's not good. So they didn't even put up arrows or down arrows in the patch notes. They just said balance, behavior, and stuff like that. They didn't really say whether or not it was a buff or a nerf up or down arrow. It made it really difficult to see what was happening with the game. A lot of the things just said we changed this animation here, changed this counter hit property there, and you have to go into the game and figure out what happened. And I feel like if you're going to do that, why even release a patch note? When you get to the actual game itself, you realize that a lot of the new moves that they added into the game is just recycled mechanics, recycled strings, recycled animations. Some of it comes from Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Some of it is just recycled from Tekken 8. King's new move is just his air grab that screws, but he could do it from standing. Dragunov's new move is his 4-1 string, but you just do the one now by itself. And then you have some head scratchers with some of the other new moves where, Jun Kazama, her wall damage is massively increased. Clive, his move does some crazy pushback. It doesn't wall splat from what I could tell, but it was just pretty wild. I don't know why the developers feel so forced to give every character a new move in the new season. No one said they need to do that. No one is pushing for them to do that. And their obsession with doing that every season is adding to the bloat, is adding to the balancing problems, is adding to the labbing problems, and just so much. Now, on the balancing side of characters, not much has changed. To my understanding, the characters that was affected the most is Claudio, Asuka. Characters who got wildly buff, and you could probably expect big things from them, is Victor, Leo. I also know that Lars got something. I heard Lars players kind of being upset. They were complaining a little bit. Also, on the other side of it, Anna got a little bit of a slap on the wrist. I've seen pro players already talking about dropping that character. And then lastly, a character who got like significant buffs worth mentioning is Devil Jin. All the people who put Devil Jin at the bottom of the tier list and said he is the worst character in the game, congratulations, you just unlocked a demon of a character. He already had one of the best win rates in Season 2, but that's not good enough for pro players. They want to be able to dominate a tournament with him, so the developers gave him more buffs in order to do that. And we'll see whether or not they play him or whether or not they just continue to say he's trash until he becomes unbelievably broken, and then they'll use him in tournaments. Overall, across the player base, this patch is being kind of met with this kind of like disappointment. Some people are very angry and are crashing out, but a lot of people are just sad, disappointed, and wanted a little bit more. I do like that it seems when you play the game that the moves and the tracking of attacks have been reduced. Tracking it was a big problem, and it seems like that's kind of been addressed, where you can move side to side, you can backdash, I can spin a lot more stuff. That's a good change, and I honestly don't know why that wasn't listed in the patch notes. Maybe they're so afraid to say that movement or range of the attacks is nerfed or whatever. I don't know, but you could definitely feel a different type of movement in the game. That's a bonus. But other than that, everything else seems like it's just adding to the problem. This update doesn't feel like a complete update. It feels more so like a 2.5 update. And the fact that this has went on for a whole season, it's pretty wild. Nakatsu put out a tweet where he says, here are the Season 3 patch notes, including main changes, new features, and improvements. A lot of the top replies to this tweet, all of them are frying this guy. One of them says, you're so out of touch with the community. Blackheart here is saying you should go and hide and never come back again. Thanks for killing the game that we all love. Shame on you. Someone else says you ain't did nothing but step back. It's sad to see so many people who put their hopes and faith into the game be disappointed. I'm going to show you a list of tweets from people, and you can just see like how people feel about the game and just how the game let them down. Farzine said, I feel like Tekken 8 might become dead after this update. Another person says, Tekken devs lied again. There's no back to the basics in this patch. Perfect Legend was calling out a lot of people for complaining about the way that the balance is for this game, blaming it on a skill issue. Someone clapped back and says, people want to see changes that have been made after being flat out lied to a year ago. It's not a skill situation. It's to see where the game is headed and holding the devs accountable. Almost everyone's trust is gone. You have a tweet from Joker where he says, I'm done competing. I wish everyone the best of luck. Thank you for all the support throughout the years. This isn't the first pro player to quit, and it probably won't be the last pro player to quit. And it sucks because Tekken 8 currently has the support of tournaments like EWC and ENC. Some of the biggest money ever is being put up for these tournaments by, the Saudi government. And Tekken players still aren't motivated to play. It just kind of speaks to how bad the game is. Kakoma says, incompetence. 8 months of work for back to basics results to this. They don't know what back to basic is because they're incompetent they are. Congratulations for wasting 8 months. Let's go Casino Season 3. Phaetone says, I think the saddest part of these patches is my homie that I train with are quitting. Locals won't get a huge resurgence neither. My favorite game is dying. And that's the weird thing about this, is that the Tekken developers don't seem to be too, startled by the majority of their player base vocally saying, I am going to quit. You can see this post here from TK Breezy, a legendary commentator who says, pros on my timeline announcing their retirement already. Sad. Hashtag Tekken 8. Ty says, glad I already made peace with not being a competitor anymore. Another interesting tweet says, at this point, it's genuinely clear that the main issue is that there is no one in the balance and development team who is remotely good at Tekken. They can do and try whatever they want, but the core issue is so huge and honestly outrageous that the game is never getting fixed at this point. Blackheart says the audacity to screw up again after everything we've done, and said to them, next level, how dumb can they be? What's funny about this whole situation as well is at the same time that Tekken 8 received an update and it's not going too well, Street Fighter also received an update and it's not going so well. From the looks of it, Tekken 8 is doing worse than Street Fighter, but still both of them are being slandered across the timeline, resulting in tweets like this. Two of the biggest fighting games getting unsatisfying patches on the same day. This person says, I'm just seeing Street Fighter and Tekken players very disappointed and upset with their patch notes. Seem to be a trend over the last 2 years that fighting games aren't getting rough patches. This tweet here is from Punk and is related to Street Fighter, but I think it also can be applied to Tekken. It says, patch still seems small. I think we all want a big shake up to the meta and characters please Capcom. And I'll add on to that and say Bandai Namco as well. It's really weird that both of these fighting games are consistent with putting out very small, mediocre updates and passing it off as some great thing. You can see here a Street Fighter player says, at least we aren't Tekken. Even though Street Fighter 6 gets a lot of flack and whatnot, Tekken's just doing a much better job at being worse. Romanova, she was once the community manager during the lifespan of Tekken 7 for a short period of time, but this is what she says about Tekken 8. Tekken bros, I think it might be over. Like we all agree, we didn't need new moves, right? I've always been one for level-headed takes for games, but the patch notes for Season 3 of Tekken already come off as tone deaf to what the competitive scene wanted. A lot of characters are getting things they don't need. Nothing screams back to basics. Kane says, tone deaf devs. It's so stupid at this point. All this waiting for a joke. Blast Islami says, at this point, the modded community is doing more interesting work on Tekken 8 than the actual devs. Rankchu. Overall, the balance itself seems improved compared to Season 2. However, it doesn't feel like a season has changed. I think it might have been better if this was kind of a balance patch had been implemented in fall of Season 2. Season 3 seems like it won't require as much studying to feel less burdensome. If ranked just improves, I think I could play for fun. Don't they say that's the worst thing you could say about a fighting game is that you're just going to play it for fun? As a pro player, right? Atif, one of the best players on the planet, says stop playing nerf characters and focus on buff characters. Anna won't be played now. People are predicting he will switch to Leo. Let's see if that's true. Is Leo the new meta character of Tekken 8, the new number one? The final tweet I'll read says, patch isn't good. We waited like 9 months for essentially season 2.5. I get the dev said that there will be additional changes to be made throughout the season, but with how bad season 2 was, they needed way more than this. You could just generally see the lack of motivation from the player base. This game, Tekken 8, had all the potential. It sold 1 million copies on the first day, 2 million copies in the first month, and then 3 million copies real briefly after. But ever since then, when the developers started doing all the stupid things that they did, the copies sold flatlined, and all the positivity for this game flatlined. And it's getting to a point where people were just quitting. And for me personally, I'm waiting for another game. I'm waiting for like GTA 6. I'm waiting for some game, and then I'm just going to shift. I'm just going to switch because it's no point. The developers are doing what they're doing, and that's pretty much it.